Thank you for all of you, parents and family members, for joining us again this afternoon for another piece of our um, the Gopher Way webinar series for families. This time, we are connecting with representatives from CLA Career Services. We're very, very excited to have them talking with you all today, and I think they will do not only a great job of setting up all of what career services across the colleges have to offer for your students, but also how you all, as parents and family members, can support your students as well. And that's really the ultimate goal of Gopher Family Engagement, is to support you, to support your students. So again, my name is Gavin Grivna from Gopher Family Engagement, and excited to have you all as a part of this series again. Uh, just a couple housekeeping pieces as we get started. We really are grateful that you all are here, and we know that some of you may have questions throughout the time. And so the Q&A feature is enabled. And so feel free at the bottom, you can click on the Q&A. You can submit questions that you have to us. All of us will be monitoring the chat or the Q&A, excuse me, and we'll be answering to the best of our ability any questions that you have. We will also occasionally respond with, we will answer that question live, as we will have a live Q&A following the paired presentation for you all to be able to get those answers as well. Also, no need to worry and take frantic notes. And this is not a simply this time. This will be recorded. It is being recorded, and we will share it to the Gopher Family Engagement YouTube channel. I will share that link through the follow-up emails and attending. It'll also be posted on Gopher Family Connection, the portal, and shared out. And so please know that you can access it at any time. You could even share it with your students should you be interested as well. With that, that's really the housekeeping pieces, and I'm happy to serve as your host for today. But enough for me. Let's get to our distinguished guests from Career Services to be able to deliver on what you all have come for. So with that, I will turn it over to Andrea and Nolan and Junior to be able to be here for you all, and thank you for you all choosing to be here and the preparation that you've done thus far. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody, and Gavin for that warm introduction. I think we have about an hour slated, but I don't know that our content is going to take that whole time, as we want to make sure that we're answering any specific questions that you all might have that are in attendance. But first, we'll go ahead and just get started with some introductions. So my name is Andrea Mayer. I'm the Director of CLA Career Services here in the College of Liberal Arts is what CLA stands for, but representing not only College of Liberal Arts, but all of our colleges across the University of Minnesota system-wide. So there's definitely some general information and some specific information that we can share as we go through some of this content. But I'll also have Junior, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi there. Good morning. My name is Junior Avalos. I use he, they pronouns, and I am a career coach here with CLA Career Services as well, but I work in tandem with a lot of the other career offices across the university system. So bringing in my expertise as well, and I'll pass it on to Nolan.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Nolan. I use he and pronouns, and I'm the business development manager for employer and alumni engagement. So I work with a lot of employers that come and recruit students. I see we already got a question about campus recruiting for senior students. So I will definitely answer that later in the presentation. So stay tuned.
Yeah, we have a slide on that. So I thought it would be good perspective that I can kind of give an overview of everything. And then Junior from the coaching perspective, while we can all chime in on that, Junior will have some great insight and Nolan some great insight from what we're hearing from business industry and workforce trends more generally speaking. So I first just want to give this big picture. I say like looking from the balcony in and looking to see what is career development, what are we talking about, and we think about that arrow of what people think career development is. You go to school, you get a job. You want to be this major, and this is what the outcome is going to be. But in reality, there's a whole lot of stuff that happens in the middle of there. And people are starting college at different times, whether they have PSEO, different types of college credits, transferring colleges. There's all sorts of things that are happening And when we look forward, I use the analogy that sometimes it can look messy and it can look unknown, but when we look backwards, we often see the path that we were traveling all along. And I don't know if any of you can relate if you're in the workforce and various types of professions, but as you think about you've navigated your own journey, what that has looked like and where you're landed, and possibly still even navigating today. I think the age-old question of what do you want to grow up or be when you grow up, I still think that sometimes, and I have a stepdaughter who's going to be a freshman at the U this coming fall, and so we've been having a lot of conversations about how do we make these decisions, and even once we feel decided, what happens if a pivot comes, or I don't want to say a curveball, but an idea comes into our mind that we've never considered before, and how we navigate that. So I'd like to just share in my time in this career development space. I like to think about all the places you'll go, just some experiences I'm sure Nolan and Junior could share too in their interactions with students. But I've worked with a student before, just three quick stories that I had one student that worked at a makeup counter at a department store and really wanted to get into dental school. So we talked a lot about how that profession or working at a makeup counter and being in close proximity to other people's face and confidence and what that does from an aesthetic standpoint, and helped use that to launch a dental school application and actually got into the U of M dental school. I've recently heard stories of a theater major, a parent's theater major student became a lawyer. And if you think of the courtroom and the theatrics of how we use our hands and our facial expressions to demonstrate or convey messages, and where that pre-law and theater major combined and came together. And another favorite one of mine is a physical therapist student I was working with had a question about they were an Uber driver and do I include this on my resume as I'm thinking about becoming a physical therapist? I'm in school now and I'm applying to jobs, and actually had a recruiter say absolutely being an Uber driver is entrepreneurial in spirit and nature and customer service and working with the general public and the unknown. And so these things of working at a makeup counter, being an Uber driver, being whatever major it is, there's not a direct, this is what we're going to go to school for and this is what we're going to become. There's all sorts of ways and paths that we get from point A to point B. And this gets into the idea of major doesn't have to equal to career. The image on the left is specific to the College of Liberal Arts. That's the college that we are all working in. But if you think about the time our students spend on campus, they have their major, they have a percentage of their time is spent in their major, but then they have upper division non-major classes, they have electives, they have different liberal arts or general education requirements. If they have a language, different colleges have, like in College of Liberal Arts, we have a first year experience and a career Kickstarter that all students take. And every college has little versions of these that their students are exposed to. And so the student is spending a lot of time broadening their scope and their horizon. I've seen students say, I want a double major or triple major or get minors because they don't want to be defined by one single major. But the reality is, there's also all of these things happening outside of the classroom that are contributing to a student's readiness, experience, and exposure, such as part-time jobs, if they're engaged in Greek life. There's so many clubs and orgs on campus. And I like the one where I hear about, I think there's a bubble tea club or a lettuce eating club. But thinking about the things and the ideas and the people that they're exposed to are learning so much and finding community and what engages them about that. We have study abroad, new friendships, going to the rec well and working out or being in athletics. And certainly internships and research are exposing our students to so many ideas that they may never have thought of. I was just at Future Gopher Admitted Day last weekend for incoming students and was hearing about all the amazing things that our faculty are doing. And then I'm thinking it from the student perspective, from my stepdaughter's perspective of what does that mean for us? And there's so much that our students are getting exposed to. It turns into this, what do we do with the information? So we put our student at the center of this. and what their time on campus and in their classrooms and in the community that they're building, they are building a network. They are building social capital to help navigate and answer these questions. And it's really about leaning in and empowering our students to have a growth mindset and leaning into that network that they're creating. As much as we can create this infrastructure for our students to engage with, we can't guarantee they're going to engage with it. So we try to do the most that we can behind the scenes to make it inevitable. We're partnering with faculty and staff. We're partnering with the clubs and orgs. So the student might not ever know that they're actually interacting with our office. But when you think about neighbors in the dorms, in the apartments, family, friends, and in our campus community, our students are developing a robust network that they can lean into and ask these questions about what should I do, where should I go, who could I connect with when it comes to internships, jobs, and just career exploration, generally speaking, if they don't know what major they're trying to navigate, am I going to change my major? So I hope that real quick overview of all the opportunities students are offered and engaged with during their time here can lead us into a short agenda, I like to think, but what is career development? What is career readiness? Who is career services? Who are these people behind career services? And then how can you help your student become career ready? And I have to joke to say, we're at the University of Minnesota, we're in R1, and so I have to give you a little history lesson that there is some method behind this. And I'm not going to go deep into it. I don't need, it's Friday. If you're in the Twin Cities, it's a cloudy day wherever you're joining from. I hope it's a little bit sunnier than it is here. But just a quick history lesson of career development and what we're rooted in as a subject area in higher education and what you might experience yourself. But career development is really a lifelong journey. And it's about building a roadmap for one's professional workplace or contributing to workforce and the world more generally. And it's really about having a growth mindset. Gavin said that you'll have access to these slides, so I'm not going to read everything line by line, but feel free to take screenshots as you feel necessary. But I think rooting ourselves in understanding it's not just a point A to a point B. This is a journey that we're going to continue iterating on, and for our students to know that there's not a right way to go through it. There's a lot of career development theories behind this, and if you want to have some light reading for your evening, feel free to do some internet searches on gender social cognitive theory, and that's all about learning from experience, and that's how we build our confidence. There's a developmental concept theory where your career journey is an evolving narrative. Crumbolt's happenstance. That's where planned and unplanned experiences help form what you're going to do. And with those unplanned, sometimes there is still planning that's happened behind the scenes and where you're choosing to engage. And then Mark Savickus's career construction theory, that again, it's not just a list of jobs, it's your story that's evolving with you. And if I could summarize this all in one, and it sounds maybe a little chaotic, but the chaos theory of careers and knowing what we are in control of and what we can't control, and how to find that right balance. So, as you're thinking about how you can support your student, whether they're exploring majors, transferring into the university, or they're getting ready to do their research internship or even graduating, going into their job. Of setting goals, knowing the job market, how are we using our skills, and then accepting any change that's out of our control. We're learning from mistakes. Welcoming uncertainty and ambiguity is really, really difficult, especially if you have a student that is really planful and wants things to go according to plan. And so finding that right balance and knowing that every student is going through this. In higher education, we talk a lot about career readiness, no matter what institution you're going through, what college at the U of M, what major you're studying. But it's really a partnership between employers and staff at universities, making sure students are developing and they're prepared to go out into the workforce to thrive and meet the needs. And that those needs are always changing. We hear what's going on with workforce, we hear what's going on with AI. And so when you hear about how do we make sure we're career ready for tomorrow's workforce, we ground ourselves in transferable career competencies, meaning that we have this core set of skills that no matter what major we are, we're developing our critical thinking, applied problem solving, decision making, innovation and creativity, our digital literacy. You can see around the wheel here, no matter what subject matter expertise, whether you're computer science, you're nursing, your law, in addition to those technical skills, you have these adaptable core career competencies. And at the bottom of this wheel is career management. And that's really where career services leans in to talk about a career management model. And we all have different takes. I mean, it's all that theory. It's still explore, experience, excel, like finding out who we are, gaining the experience, and then launching or embarking and excelling into that next stage. And this is all happening with reflection and decision making in the middle. And that can be happening in many different ways with our career coaches, in our classes, different applied experiences. But this is really what guides the work that we do, and all of our college career services centers work with this, and we work in partnership with faculty. So this is also happening inside the classroom. So I had the job and the privilege of giving the quick history lesson here, but I want to turn it over to Junior now to specifically go into this Office of Career Services. We hear about the Office of Career Services. So Junior, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. So now that you've heard about the philosophy behind like career development, I want to like bring that to life by actually telling you what that actually looks like across the University of Minnesota system. So one of the biggest strengths at the U is that every college and system campus has its own dedicated career services office. That means your student isn't getting a one size fits all support. They're getting guidance tailored specifically to their majors, the industries that they're wanting to pursue, and their specific career interests. So, whether your student is in the liberal arts college, business, engineering, public health, or attending one of our other system campuses, they'll have access to professionals who understand hiring needs and trends, career paths, and opportunities unique to their field. At the same time, all of our offices collaborate, so students also benefit from shared resources, employer connections, and university-wide opportunities. We can go ahead to the next slide. So, what does that actually mean in practice? What do students actually come to us for? We support students at every stage of their journey. So, whether they're just starting to explore or actively applying for jobs and internships. Some of the most common things that we help include exploring majors and career paths, building their resumes and cover letters, preparing for interviews, finding internships, research and part-time opportunities, networking and making professional connections, applying to jobs and graduate school. And I do want to name something important, especially for like families thinking ahead about internships and job outcomes. Our role in career services is not directly to place students into internships or jobs, but to equip them with the tools, the strategies, and connections to successfully secure those opportunities themselves. In many fields, especially like today, especially those competitive ones like technology, business, or healthcare, students often apply to many opportunities over time, and we work with them on how to navigate that process effectively and persistently. Beyond the logistics, we're also helping students build their confidence, learning how to talk about their skills, tell their story, and navigate that uncertainty, right? And importantly, students don't have to wait until their senior year. We encourage them to start early and engage often. We can go to the next one. And so some of the resources that we have, we make the support really accessible in a few different ways. Students can meet one-to-one with a career coach for personalized guidance, attend workshops and events, and connect with employers through career fairs and networking opportunities. So for example, here in my role with CLA, my specific career fields where I support students are around government, international affairs, law and justice. So any students thinking of exploring law school. I also specifically work with international students and transfer students. So we work with these specific populations, but all of our coaches are specialized to support everyone. We also use platforms like Handshake, where students can find internships and jobs. They can register for events in a centralized place and connect directly with employers who are specifically looking to hire U of M students. We support students with things like reviewing their resumes and their portfolios, preparing for those interviews, and building targeted job and internship search strategies. And if a student doesn't secure an internship right away, we also help them identify alternative ways to build that experience, such as research, personal or group projects, or other hands-on opportunities. So they're still developing these relevant skills for their field. Some other really cool things that we have, the Maroon and Gold Network. This is a website where current U of M students can connect with alumni that want to help them also find different opportunities and learn about career development as well. We also offer different online resources, dedicated Canvas modules and courses specifically for career development. And at the end of the day, our goal is just to make sure that every student not only graduates with a degree, but also with a clear direction and the tools to confidently take their next step. And then I'm going to pass it on to Nolan to talk a little bit about employer stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Junior. Yes, there was a question earlier in the chat about when will campus recruiting start for senior students? So the answer that probably is not very helpful, but but the real answer is it depends. Depends what students are looking for, what industry they're looking to go into, and what kind of yeah, what area of work they're trying to get into. And as you can see here, we've got some data that we collect from employers that are already engaged with the University of Minnesota. So we're directly, these are employers that are recruiting our students. And so we did a survey to figure out like what kind of timelines that they have for recruiting. Um, as you can see, it is kind of all over the board. Some only do fall semester, some only do spring semester. It depends maybe if they're what their recruiting timeline is like for internships versus jobs. A lot of the internships have a more set timeline, but it really varies from, some companies, especially kind of our more corporate partners or people who have very competitive internship programs will start that recruitment even in the summertime. So they're recruiting in the summer for the next summer. So sometimes students are a little bit behind the ball because they get to campus in September and they're like, I'm looking for an internship in consulting, especially consulting is one of those very competitive industries, and they start their timeline in the summer, so they've already missed the boat on that. So that's why we have kind of those, kind of goes into the reasoning behind why we have all these different career offices that have the expertise in certain industry areas to help students with that. And even career coaches that specialize in those industries. So yeah, here's the breakdown by industries. Like I mentioned, consulting for their internship programs, they're starting in May, and that's for the next internships that'll start the next year. So, but as you can see, most of the industries are kind of recruiting for both jobs and internships in that October through or September, October through March. And so that's kind of when we try and place our different career fairs. So we have a lot of career fairs in the fall that are mostly in September, October to kind of get started on those earlier internship and job timelines. We also have our big university-wide career fair in February to kind of line up with a lot of those other, uh, companies that are recruiting around that timeline as well. And even now, it is like later in the semester and towards the end of the year, but there's still, companies that are hiring for internships and jobs. I see them posting them all the time. It has gotten competitive, but it's still, there's still people out there looking, and there are people who, this time of year, there's people who are recruiting for jobs who, maybe they had somebody placed in that job or internship, but they dropped out for whatever reason, and so there's positions opening up now for that. So yeah, I'd encourage anybody who's looking into timelines to connect with their career coaches, their people in their college who have that expertise in like what industry they're going into. It's very helpful to know.
Yeah, and I might chime in here with a couple of questions that I'm seeing come in through the chat too. I think with all of this, what Nolan laid out there is, I mean, these are just starting points for a conversation, but really leaning into your student or having them lean into their major, their departmental advisors or faculty or their career center within their colleges, because they're going to know the specifics for timelines and points of contact. So, everything Nolan shared of recruiting timelines and practices, factually speaking, yes, but are there always exceptions? 100%. And I do have a slide that says, like, what can you do now for your student? And just 2 nights ago, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn daily. I mean, it's part of my job, but Medica just posted their internships for this summer. And in my head, I'm like, wow, that's really late. That surprised me. But then I immediately forwarded it to my stepdaughter and I was like, get on LinkedIn, look at these things. You ought to be ready going into this next academic year. So I think it's being aware of those things, and there's no right way to know besides using your resources and the people that know specific for each of the majors and the colleges. One of the questions was experiential learnings. Please give examples. And that I think is really specific to, or not specific, but experiential learning is a huge umbrella. That can be any kind of applied relevant learning. That can also be interchanged with immersive learning, applied learning, high impact practices, high impact career practices. And so, experiential learning can be internships, it can be job shadowing, it can be research, it can be student employment on campus. We have a great program. It's called Work Plus, where we're across campus creating our student employment opportunities to be more meaningful and resume relevant for students to be using when they're going out on their interviews. And so, absolutely, experiential learning is happening broadly and in nooks and crannies. You think of student teaching, that's an education, that's experiential or applied learning. In nursing, all the practicums, that's experiential learning. So it looks different for every student, and there's not one best way. It's really exposure. And I think also the era of internships over. I haven't explicitly heard that, and I see a lot of internships. So I don't know that one of the questions is the era of internships over? But I want to ask Nolan and Junior to weigh in on that too. What you're hearing from students. Everything I've heard is that AI is not taking over anything. It's changing things. It's changing the way work is done, but it's not replacing work. But Nolan or Junior, have you heard anything on internships and the future of internships?
Yeah, I can go ahead and answer that. So yeah, I'm seeing a few questions about regarding AI and stuff. So as Andrea mentioned, like it is changing the landscape. But the thing is that employers are still hiring students and recent graduates because they're looking for folks that can think critically and solve problems, communicate effectively, and also work with tools like AI and not compete against them. So when it comes to like how career services supports these students is like understanding how AI is being used in their specific field, um, learn how to responsibly and effectively use AI tools. But like at the end of the day, like AI is not as smart as we think it is just yet. It's not taking over these jobs. It is making workflows a little bit easier for some industries. So, for example, like in tech or in business, but we're still needing that aspect of human intelligence to actually get it done. So when it like there are still many internship opportunities, they are becoming more competitive. But that's where we support students in that aspect. We're telling them like how to effectively tell their story in order to make themselves appealable candidates for these positions and showcase their strengths.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple specific questions coming in that are difficult to answer, generally speaking. But I think as far as like job application timeline, I would say typically anywhere from 2 to 6 months prior to graduation to start applying to jobs. You just never know. Some organizations go really quick and others take time. And if when your student is applying and on their resume it says graduation expected June 2026, the employer probably knows that they're not available until that time, so we're not going to pursue them as a candidate unless they have that. Um, so I think just being transparent in that, I would say probably 2 to 3 months ahead of time. But that's where some of the internships, the job shadows, if you can have that your network keeping an eye out and helping you in that space ahead of time is helpful as well. Um,
Andrew, could I add something real quick?
Please do.
Yeah, something that I also want to add that we haven't mentioned a little bit about it's the type of experiences that we encourage our students to take all across the university. We encourage them to be like a little bit flexible and open to ranges of experiences. So we always hear a lot that like you should have 10 to 15 internships on your resume and stuff like that. But something that we do in all of our career services office is that we encourage students to also be able to translate their skills in volunteering, research, if they decide to go study abroad, if they're working like a regular student job or working out like in retail or food service. These are also valuable experiences that we believe will help students be competitive candidates as well. Students are all trying to get the internships, and those are great career-related opportunities to explore if that's the right job like market for them. But when it comes to these other experiences, that's what we encourage our students as well to do. If they're volunteering at a church, if they are helping at a food shelf, they're developing these skills that Andrea mentioned at the beginning, and they could lead other places, right? So because that path into a career may not look as linear as it did in the past. The other thing I know that I'm seeing a few questions is like, how many of our students are like, what's the best way to land that first job? Really, that networking aspect, we're seeing that 80% of our recent graduates are finding their first role based on like their network. And so again, that's how we encourage students to not just fill in their resume with internships, but to build those skills of like storytelling and connection and getting to know employers and getting to put their a face out there. Because something that we hate hearing is like you'll only get a job because it depends who you know. There's some truth to that. If people don't know your strengths or skills, they don't know what you bring to the table, right? So that's where the networking aspect is, and if we're able to tell that story correctly, it will be easier for them to find that role.
And I would even say networking with your career office because Junior or myself or Nolan might not have the direct contact in an organization, but we can help coach you on how to approach that and how to find that person through different Maroon and Gold Network, LinkedIn, and doing some sourcing that way. Another question that came in is, and I'm just going to generalize this for any first year student that's really eager and they're excited to find an internship. And if companies, there are some organizations that are going to say that they have their internships for third and fourth year, or they have a specific year in school employers are looking for. I think it's knowing that if you're running into that or your students running into that, Junior and Nolan have both laid out, there's so many ways to gain experience. And so then when you are a junior or senior, or you're hitting that third or fourth year when employers are indicating that, because again, every field is different. You can be job shadowing in pre-health really, really early on. What are you doing to set yourself up to be competitive to get those internships that are for third years? I mean, you want to be doing something that's engaging and showing that you're marketable in the meantime. Um, Are career services open to only students in U of M degree programs or students cross-registered, part-time students? I mean, if a student is affiliated with a college at the University of Minnesota or a system campus, they can reach out directly to their career office. And every career office, I mean, CLA, we serve students up to 1 year post-graduation. And so alumni can be reaching back out. And so I would just to reach out and see what that relationship looks like in the college that you're designated with. And as far as what percentage of students are getting internships or experiential learning, again, we try to not say that that's the baseline. That's not the goal for every student. So it's also hard to say when not everybody wants a certain type of experience. It's not always the best indicator of success, but it's helping understand what does success look like for an individual student because it is so different for everybody. And so for some students, it's research. For some students, it's a part-time job that need that financial, security and stability there. Having a part-time job is a fantastic launching point, and some part-time jobs can be stronger than internships. And so I don't know that for some internships sound like or are the quote unquote gold standard, but they don't have to be. And so feeling like if you're not finding one, that's not the only way to find success or define success, I should say too. Um, Let's see, I'm going to go ahead as far as what you can do now as next steps as support people of your students or those that are in school right now. I mean, first and foremost, encourage your students to engage with career resources, whether that's their career services office, whether that's Handshake. Just lean into the resources and start the conversation is really the best way to do that. And a lot of times that might also be with their departmental advisor or a faculty member, but start those conversations, encouraging them to do so. Um, more specifically, if you're like, oh, are my students coming home for a break or the summer or whatnot, intentional conversations. And I'm laughing as I was trying to get some information from my stepdaughter, even just last night, and it was incredibly difficult. But what jobs in Handshake have piqued your interest so far? So that tells you if they're in Handshake or job board, and just what jobs? I mean, are there anything, what are common themes? Like look at job descriptions together. Don't even look at the title, but look at the types of skills and responsibilities. Which class has surprised you the most so far and why? I mean, maybe they took a class they never thought they were going to, or had to quote unquote take a required class that they didn't want, but they ended up really liking it and doing some exploration as to why, what's behind that, what were they uncovering? What's a problem in the world, big or small, that they actually want to do something about? Sometimes we can find out a lot about our students on what keeps them up at night. I'll use the example with my stepdaughter, who's a hostess and a server in a restaurant, and I'm asking like, what about that do you like? Do you like talking with the customers? Do you like when you train and mentor new people that are coming in? Do you like the variety? So just trying to get some common language that she can start thinking about as she's thinking forward, to what might be next. Are there any clubs or internships you have heard about that sound cool, even if they don't fit your major? So if there's theater, if there's dance, if there's bubble tea, if there's French club, I mean, there's so many things that again, our students are going to be exposed to this or different ideas. And then, is there anyone in your network, friends, family, faculty that you'd like to grab coffee with to ask about their job? That's a big one. But can you help your student connect with somebody and just learn a little bit more? If you have a friend or a family member, a cousin or an auntie or a neighbor does this certain type of work, kind of have it be an exploratory conversation just to start seeing where the conversation might go for them. Because crossing things out are just as important sometimes as finding out what does feel like a good fit. Nolan, from your perspective with workforce, what you're hearing, is there anything that you would give as a tip of what support people and families can do for their students right now?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the just connections piece is really big right now. I think every hiring manager I've talked to has definitely said, it really helps to just think about that network like we showed that circle kind of graph. Like, you have the student who's like their first ring of people they can reach out to, second ring, all these people, we try and encourage it in our career course that they take in CLA. And a lot of the other colleges have similar courses, just trying to build that skill of reaching out to people, talking to them about the job. It could be just for information gathering purposes, but also just to that connection could go somewhere. Maybe they'll be hiring down the road. If they aren't hiring now, they might be hiring later. Um, and just making those connections because it really helps hiring managers when they're, like many people mentioned, the AI is kind of changing how people apply to jobs and how they process applications. If they're getting 100 plus 200, 300 AI resumes, it helps to have a face behind the name of a resume, right? So a recruiter or a hiring manager is going to be more likely to hire somebody they're like, oh, I know that person. I've talked to them, versus some resume that looks like all the other ones that were submitted. So that's definitely what I'm hearing.
And Junior, what about you?
Yeah, I think I just want to break that down a little bit more on ways that parents, family members, and the support and like the people in our students' lives, how they can support them, is just encouraging them just to talk to strangers and like building those skills. I think that's really what we're seeing. One of the books that I like to recommend to students to read is called The Power of Strangers: The Benefits of Connecting in a Suspicious World by Joe Keohane, I think it's his name. But it just essentially is like we're losing that talent and that skill of like approaching folks and just getting to know them for the sake of curiosity. When we hear about networking, we immediately think, oh, it's only transactional. I'm only there because I'm looking for my next job. I'm looking for an internship. But like really, like networking is just building those professional relationships, same ways that we build them in friendships, in the dating world. It's just getting to know folks and getting to talk to them, right? We're seeing that students are having a hard time, and it is because of the landscape of the world. Like we are sometimes stuck to our phones. We're getting constant hits with media and like all this stimulus. And so like sometimes we want to like close out ourselves off. And so like just like encouraging students to like be able to like, hey, did you go talk to a stranger today? Did you get to know something new? Did you ask random questions to that Uber driver that gave you a ride today? Or when you were at the supermarket, did you spark a conversation with the barista or the cashier? You know, it sounds so simple, but it's a skill and muscle that we all develop, right? And it takes time. And by encouraging our students just to like go talk to a stranger, like stranger danger, yes, it's something that was engraved to us growing up, but like that is how this tango works a little bit. It's so you get to know folks and you have to talk to strangers and you got to get out of your comfort zone.
And that even like I'm gonna go back to my my philosophies in the beginning of theories of happenstance. I mean, if you're being planful, something in an unplanned conversation with that barista might turn into something really amazing, and you never know where a commonality or a connection might happen. I think there's uh, plenty of examples if we look at when were you in the right place at the right time, but there was a reason you were there. I mean, something got you to that point, and so it's unplanned so planned happenstance there. And I think the last thing I'll say here, unless we get any more questions as we start to wrap up, would be I think don't define like for you and for your student to not define the first job as whether or not success was achieved. Because, like I said from the beginning, our careers are a journey. I mean, this is a whole, I mean, what's happening with the workforce, whether we were talking about it 20 years ago or 20 years into the future. I mean, we are all continuing to evolve. The workforce, the trends, the needs, they continue to evolve. And so it's about building the resilience, the growth mindset that if you want to make a move, you're going to make a move. Continue to pivot. Those are all career skills, and yeah, I think just not letting that first job define or make us feel limited by any means, but it's a launch pad for where you're going to continue to go. With the degree, I'm trying to remember now. Read a book recently. I don't recall what it was, otherwise I'd share it. But I mean, when a student graduates from a university with an undergraduate degree, developmentally at 22 years old, there's a lot of life and development that is still happening. I mean, we're not graduating fully formed, uh, you know, members of society. I mean, you have a lot of life to still experience in the years that follow graduation that continue to shape your sphere of influence and how you're going to make an impact, and lead the future in these ways. And so I think it's really empowering what we hope to embed and equip our students with from that growth mindset and how we continue to make an impact on what they'll do with their careers. So I just feel so fortunate that Nolan Jr., all the career staff at the U of M get to be a part of your students' journeys to help shape and show them what's possible and instill this curiosity and excitement with them. So I'm not seeing any other questions. Gavin, do you have any other thoughts or next steps?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you all for all that wonderful info. I was even taking notes in addition to looking at questions and in the Q&A. And so really just appreciate not only the technical and the theory, but then all the way down to the specific granularity of how can these attendees, parents, family members, supporters of students on our campus help their students be able to stand out and be unique and find ways to connect and engage. Really great examples as well. So thank you for all of that. And you all did a great job of rather seamlessly, in my opinion, answering a couple dozen questions throughout the time as well. And so, a couple that I might just re-highlight just for the benefit of the group, and if there are lingering questions, please, folks, feel free to add into the chat. But some of the themes, and I think just an opportunity to again further iterate on some of these ideas as they stood out as questions that probably I would guess most family members would have would be any again further examples and ways that students can distinguish themselves from others pretty prominently. We all have we probably have varying degrees of experience of certainly applying to jobs, but also reviewing candidates for positions. But I think because there are so many opportunities and so many different places that people may be applying, and having competition be out there, how can they make themselves be unique, and what can they do to distinguish themselves strongly from others?
Junior, do you want to take a go at that of how can students distinguish themselves to be different from others, or do you want me to give a first pass?
You go first. There's a question on the chat that I was answering.
Okay, no problem. So I think as far as just distinguishing, I mean, it's a great question, and I think it's recognizing that we're all unique individuals and we all offer a lot of similar things, but different things that we bring to the table. And with that, I mean, I hate to be the generic answer, but finding the right culture and the right team is a lot of it too. And so it's not always about what did I or didn't I have, but sometimes hiring decisions are made based on how the fit within an organization. And so I think it's really just about our students being their authentic selves and showing up as who they are and who they're meant to be. Because if it's not a fit, nobody's going to thrive in that situation. And so highlighting how we're creatively solving problems a lot. I mean, we can do, there's resources on all of our career sites about common interview questions. AI is a great place to say, I need to do a mock interview for an interview for a business analyst or a government affairs coordinator. Like, what are 10 questions I might get asked? And what types of answers do they want to have in there? And that's a great way to use AI, but it's still making our students think, and AI can't replace the human component of this because it's selling the idea too. And I think a lot of it is just being comfortable and confident. Uh, Knowing what we have to offer, and that's in knowing yourself. And so it's going through this career development process, and it's a journey. I think that's that it's a journey. And that's why taking advantage of the mock interviews that students can do while they're in school, go to the job fairs, do all those things. So the first interview isn't actually their first interview. They've had a lot of exposure and practice. I think both Junior and Nolan had shared, different ways that students can highlight how they stand out. And even going back to the very beginning, being an Uber driver, realizing how complex what we might think is a quote unquote simple job. I'm an Uber driver, but look at all the skills that come with doing that. And you're putting yourself out there. Entrepreneurial mindset blew me away when a recruiter said, I want to hire that person. That is an entrepreneurial minded person that is an Uber driver. I mean, it still gives me goosebumps now when we reframe what our work is. And Subway, if you have Subways around you, you're a sandwich artist. You're not just a cashier. There's a lot of different ways that we can highlight what we do. But Junior and Olin, I mean, Junior, maybe when you're coaching students, how are you helping them sell their skills and stand out?
Yeah, I can talk on that. I think again, like as you mentioned, we really look at the values of a student and we specifically focus on their strengths and skills. I also encourage them be flexible and be willing to like open up to like new opportunities that might not fit the narrative that you've thought of for a long time. So a lot of times we're thinking of like, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a policy aide, especially in my field. But like as we're talking about AI as well and like strengthening your skills is that like it is changing entry level work, but it's not eliminating opportunities. It's just reshaping them, right? So employers still want interns and new grads. What they're really looking for is can you think critically, communicate well, and use these tools effectively, right? We're seeing new roles and opportunities emerge. So it's both like a disruption and creation happening at the same time. So whenever like like I'm trying to think like when computers were first introduced of like 30 to 40 years ago, we thought this is over, right? And instead, like now we have this whole entire field in computer science and people, secretary work changed a little bit. It's became automated. And so like that's what I tell students. It's like, yes, Can you bring, Andrea, you shared at the very beginning those 10 core competencies that we have. Like that's what, and that's based off employer information. So like that's what they're looking for. Can you bring these skills and can you translate them into your resume, into the interview? Um, because this, like, at the end of the day, like, this is what you bring as a student, right? This is what your academic journey is preparing you for, is not, can you do this technical hard thing, which is code or do surgery? It's like, can you think critically? Can you apply those problem solving skills? Can you think critically? Can you work? Are you someone we want to work with, right? And are you able to pivot and shift, right? I think that's one of the skills that that I really teach students. It's like, when something goes wrong, how do you change gears? Like that's really important.
Thank you for that. And again, kind of one last call here for any remaining questions that are out there that you want to get in this space addressed or answered. But really, again, echoing what has been said and even posted in the chat too, is that um, if nothing else, I hope that this space and the time with Andrea and Nolan and Junior really give this sense of there are people here on campus in each college, unique for all of the students here that are passionately wanting to support your student and have great insights, excellent ways to support them, and all that need be is that your student reach out and connect with them. And I love, Junior, what you had shared about that connecting with strangers, but connection is really at the core of all of this, whether it being a student at the University of Minnesota, but also then being able to connect to their future, career aspirations. And so I've seen a few more
You know, Gavin,
uh,
I can maybe
chat.
answer these two more too. Nolan
Yes.
and Junior are typing. I'll answer two live and then know that we are happy to continue the conversation. And so you can email career services generally or specifically within your student's college. We can't always speak on behalf of just with different FERPA requirements, but generally speaking, we're always happy to answer generally. And so I think job sites that are best to find a job, Handshake is the institution's job and internship board. So that's where we are funneling for equal opportunity all of our positions through Handshake. But there are certainly going to be times that teaching jobs are on a very specific website. If in Minnesota it's MinEdPost. Nursing jobs are going to be on a different website, and so Minnesota Council of Nonprofit. I mean, so there are some that are industry specific, but generally speaking, Handshake is where you'd encourage students to start. And as far as peer coaching. That's just a model that many of our offices have. We know from a retention and engagement standpoint, being accessible and being a welcoming space, peer-to-peer connections work really, really well. So in our office in liberal arts, we have a peer coaching team that students can come in and do drop-in appointments or schedule appointments and hear the information from peers or a wonderful extension from our full-time career coaching staff. And most offices have some version of a peer coach model. We talk about it like a triage in the medical field. You'd see a nurse before the doctor, before the surgeon. And so our peer coach is really our warm welcome to our office.
Well, again, thank you, Andrea, Nolan, and Junior, all for being here, all of your perspectives, the insightful information, and really just giving the gift of this information to those of you families who have been able to attend. And thank you to all the parents and family members who have attended, seeking to learn how to continue to support your student. We're planning on continuing to offer these webinars on a regular basis for you all to be able to get that information. And so if you do have, interest in a particular office or topic, I'm always open. Feel free to let Gopher Family Engagement know what those might be and those areas of interest. I'd also like to remind you all that a recording of this will be available on Gopher Family Engagement's YouTube channel. Yes, we do have a YouTube channel almost exclusively for this purpose, to share these webinars for you all and to be able to have these as resources continuing to support you and your student. That is included in the follow-up messages that those who are attending live and it will be again continuing to be shared on our family portal, Gopher Family Connection, as well. As you continue to have questions, again, career services offices within the colleges, and certainly these staff from CLA are here to support your students and you, and Gopher Family Engagement. Myself, we will continue to be here to support all of you as parents and family members of our students. And with that, we just want to again thank you to everyone involved, and hopefully you have a great rest of your Friday and weekend ahead. Thank you all so much.